You have maybe heard me talk in the past a few times about the Ryan Reynolds movie Buried. It's a movie that I'm absolutely adore. I think it has one of the best Ryan Reynolds performances outside of the Deadpool movies, which I don't really think are the best Ryan Reynolds performances, but they're up there. Now, this movie, Die Before You Die, really did smack of a lot of that in the sense of he gets buried alive in that movie, and the guy looks like he's going to be getting buried alive in this movie. We're going to talk about Die Before You Die because it was a lot different to what I expected it to be. It has a really cool message to it, and I think Dan Pringle is a director that we maybe need to be taking more seriously. But first of all, my name is Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all the news, reviews, and exclusive interviews. Please do hit that like, hit that subscribe, and ding that notification bell for more interviews, everything else like that you'll see down below. Check out all that good stuff. But right now, we're talking about Die Before You Die, a movie about a YouTube influencer. Wait. So Die Before You Die is a movie about Addy. Addy is a YouTube influencer who likes doing all these random challenges, and he's just finished like a 10,000 push-up in one day challenge. But of course, it doesn't quite get the numbers that he hopes it's going to get. And I can completely relate to this in a strange way, because you put something out there, you think it's going to do well, and it doesn't necessarily do as well as you think it will. But he, as a YouTube content creator, is getting a little bit disillusioned by this whole thing because he's putting work into the grind and he's not really getting what he's after. So he's starting to think about more outside the box challenges that he can do. And that's when he and his friend, who go out to a hookah bar, and by the way, that doesn't mean prostitutes as I thought it did. They went to a hookah bar and they were like smoking a hookah, which is like a thing. But he and his friend Maz, they go there and they meet this guy there who has this idea, who recognizes them, by the way, as YouTubers and content creators. And he has this idea for them where they go and they get buried in this hole, buried alive for 3 days straight. That's going to be the challenge. And at first they're a little bit skeptical, but then it's like, you know what? That is a pretty extreme challenge. We can record the whole thing. Let's go and give it a try. So they think about it, they go to give it a try, and that's when the movie really kicks in. They get there, it's all a little bit ominous, it's all a little bit sinister. What's really going on here? We're not entirely sure, but you know they need to get their numbers up, they need to get those subscribers up, and they're committed to the YouTube cause. So they're going to do whatever it takes. They get to the hole with these guys, and they're basically told that they can't take their phones with them, they have to leave their phones behind, and they just have to go down this hole, and they're going to be completely alone. Sounds scary enough? It is scary enough, and that's what they do. So Addy climbs down into the hole, and this is where we're going to spend the rest of the movie. We're going to spend the movie in this hole. And what I will say is, it's grim. It's pretty severe. There is an air hole pipe tube coming down from the top that he's going to be able to breathe through, and every day the people that have put them in the hole, they're going to come and give them some water. They're going to have a little bit of a life-altering experience, apparently, and they're going to smash this challenge like there is no tomorrow. They're going to come back, they're going to get big numbers, and it's all brilliant. But that's not really what movies are about, is it? So things are going to happen that are a little bit untoward, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And this movie is basically that. Addy in a hole with nothing but his thoughts and feelings and a little toy monkey. We'll talk about that in a second. And when it comes to the cast and the crew, there's only one real cast member that you can talk about. I will quickly mention Mim Sheikh, who plays Maz, the friend. He is really good in the scenes that he has at the start. That was a nice little relationship, but that's the only real relationship that we get with the movie. There is a relationship with his daughter, but we don't really get too much into that because we only see her in one scene. There is a relationship with his girlfriend, Amira, or his wife, Amira. She's pretty cool. Priya Blackburn, pretty good actress for what she does, and kind of just sets the tone in certain scenes that really are going to push us forward. But make no mistake, this is Addy's movie, and he is Ziad Abaza. This is completely his movie. I'll be totally honest with you, although I do recognize him, I do feel like he's a familiar actor to me, I can't really think of anything right now that I can place him into. I'm pretty sure he was in K-Shop, which was Dan Pringle's last movie, but other than that, I'm not 100% certain. But this is his movie. This is 100% his movie. I think he is perfectly cast. He plays this role like this sort of like hot-headed, almost narcissistic, obsessive compulsive YouTube influencer. And let's be honest, we are all that way. If you're putting stuff out on the internet, that's the way you have to be. When he's full of piss and vinegar and anger and vitriol, we feel it. When he thinks that people are all against him, we kind of feel that they're against him. But you know what? You put yourself down this hole. You made that choice, so I can't feel too sorry for you. You're chasing those clicks, chasing those views. This is when we figure out who the character is. This is when he figures out who the character is. This is when he does his best work, when he's arguing with himself. Because they do this thing, they do this thing where, because it's just him down the hole, you could think that it's going to get a little bit boring or whatnot. He does talk to himself quite a bit. I don't mean he's talking to the camera, although he does kind of do a little bit of that, but I don't mean like breaking the fourth wall. He's not breaking the fourth wall. He's not talking to us. He's talking to himself. But they also have his voice as a voiceover, sort of having conversations with him, which I thought was a really unique twist to this. Like I mentioned the movie Buried at the start with Ryan Reynolds. They don't do anything like that. Love that film. It's great for its own qualities, but they don't do anything like that. In this, he kind of has conversations with himself, like, you did this to yourself, and he's angry at himself, and he's scared about what's going to happen to himself. He wants to try and push himself to live and to get through this, but he's also just like terrified and alone, and it's almost like his mind or his mentality is what he's created for his channel, and then his body and who he actually is scared, frightened, and alone. Like, it's a great dynamic because he still thinks he is what he is or what he isn't. He still thinks that, and he still tries to push that narrative to himself, not to us, not to the viewer, not to you, but to himself. I thought this was a fantastic way of doing it. It juxtaposes the entire situation with what he thinks it is and what it actually is. I just loved it. I loved the way they did that. It was a great move from Dan Pringle to do this. So we've talked about the cast, and we've also talked a little bit about the director, Dan Pringle. But what I will say, I'm 100% checking out anything Dan Pringle does from this way forward, because this is the kind of movie that could very easily, on this kind of budget, fail. It could very easily just fail, not do well, not do anything, and it could just become this sort of like hyperbolic, oh, look at me, I'm an arty-farty director. But that's not what he's doing here, and it doesn't at all feel like that. He's telling a story about compulsiveness, about being on your phones all the time, all day, about constantly being switched on and missing the life around us because we're trying to push ourselves on the internet or push ourselves to people. You could equate this to any situation. It doesn't have to be a YouTube situation, but this is very much like where we are as a society and as a whole. And when you strip that all back and when you really look deep inside yourself, does any of it really matter? Like, honestly, does it? That's for you to make up. That's what Addy has to make up. And other choices that he made as well, like choices with the music. Nina Humphrey's score is fantastic. The music in this movie is really kind of gets to you, crawls inside your head and just plays with you like a little maniacal demon, just tickling your little mind bone or whatever you call that. The cinematography by Ben Saffer is gorgeous. We do get that shot that we got in Buried, where the camera sort of like pans out and it shows you a little bit more till you get to see the full length of Addy. And they did that in Buried. You know, it's kind of like that old boy shot as well with the corridor. Like, it's cool to see. I really like that. It works really well. It always works well, and it's always nice to see because it just kind of shows you how desperate this situation actually is. But cinematography-wise, I couldn't complain. The lighting in certain places was really nice. The way they keep focusing on the little toy monkey, which I've not really mentioned yet, the toy monkey that he has, that you kind of feel like that's where his voice has gone to. Like, when he's arguing with himself, it's almost like he's arguing with this plastic toy. And I kind of loved that moment. Those moments were cool. I love the way the monkey's shot. We get this really cool little, like, visual effect of like a load of little tiny monkeys falling on him. I thought it was ants, but then it's like little tiny monkeys. I kind of loved all of that. This movie is a cracking movie. It's one of those movies that you're not going to straight away get into. It's a slow burn to start off with, but then once we get down in the hole, it really does take off, and the performance just shows up and shows out. He carries the entire movie right the way through to the end. We get some nice little twists and turns along the way. And I think it's just a case of a director showing, I might not have all the money in the world, but look what I can make. Look what I can show you. Look how gorgeous I can make this movie about a man stuck in a hole. Like, do I have any real negatives to this? And I think we could have maybe got to the hole a little bit quicker. I think we could have maybe got there a little bit sooner. But I get what you're doing. You're sort of world building the situation. You're building up the character of Addy being like this compulsive YouTuber. You're building up the fact that he kind of just doesn't really pay attention to anything other than clicks and views. You're building that up. I get it. You're sort of giving us a little bit of the situation to come, slyly, by the way, but we're kind of seeing that, okay, something's a little bit off here, but why is it a little bit off? Why are we not seeing what's going to happen? Why is it going to happen? And we don't really get those answers till near the end. And even then, you're still not fully given those answers. It's left open to interpretation, I thought, which is great because any movie that keeps you talking after the runtime, that's a job well done. And this will get you talking after the runtime. I may as well just jump into my Nerdly Out Loud rating, my final rating of this movie. I think it's a great movie. I think people really find it. I think people really take to it. I think people really will enjoy it. Dan Pringle's 100% a director I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Obviously also a good little writer as well, and I believe this was also written by the lead actor, Ziad Abaza. I believe he wrote this as well, so they were co-writers on this, which kind of shows, because if you're going to be stuck down in this hole, you might as well try and make stuff up yourself. They're seeing what's working and seeing what's not working. I'd love to see some of the stuff that didn't make it into the movie. It's not absurd to any level where I don't actually think this would ever happen. It could very easily happen. It's a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 5. It does fall a little bit short in places that I've not really mentioned because spoilers, but it does kind of like go in a certain way that I was like, as much as I liked it, I was a little bit like, okay, that's what we are now. But at the end of the day, I can see so many positives to this movie that far outweigh the negatives. And I really, really want to see what everyone on this team does next. I want to see the next project. I want to see what Dan Pringle does next. I could see a really, really cool career for this guy going forward. K-Shop was a movie I remembered seeing and actually remembered enjoying, which is cool. Completely different kind of movie. But this, I think, was kind of in his wheelhouse. Die Before You Die, 100,000,000%. Check it out. I will not be doing any YouTube challenges on this website because that is what would happen to me. 100%. I am that lucky of a guy. My name is Kevin Howard and this is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for other news, reviews and exclusive interviews. See how I go into the promos so easily, like I've said it a million trillion times, which I have. Please do hit that like, hit that subscribe, but most of all go over to nerdly.co.uk. Check out all the reviews over there. We've got some amazing reviewers over there. It's all gravy stuff. Check out the videos down below. We've got reviews, we've got interviews, we've got all sorts of things that end in ooh. This movie, Die Before You Die, absolutely, when it hits your screen, when it hits everything and you get a chance to see it, check it out. I give it a 4 out of 5. It could potentially be a 5, but for me today, as I sit right now, having watched that movie last night, it's a 4 out of 5.